Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 167 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. We're back with another interview on a Tuesday. You guys are going to love this one. I got a ton of good response from the interview we did last week with Tom Energia, and so we're going to keep the ball rolling. We're going to keep putting out interviews. I was kind of worried putting up 2 episodes in the week. Is it going to just give me the same amount of listens and then just cut my listens on my Thursday episode in half? And it did not. They almost seem to work separately from each other, almost maybe even feed off of each other. And so I'm very appreciative of you guys listening to me talk way too long. And let's continue with it. Obviously, right now, if you guys are watching on video, I am, again, not in the usual space where I record my intros and outros. Right now, I'm working on the new studio, Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios 2.0. Have some different stuff planned for it, and it's going really well. Been working on this wall behind me for like the last 4 days, trying to get everything set up and fixed. This is not what it's going to look like. It's going to be a completely different color and hopefully look way better than it looks right now. But that being said, I owe someone an apology. And I know you're thinking, oh man, it's probably from last week's episode where Josh was just attacking all of YouTube. No, that's not it. I owe Mrs. Mustix an apology. I remember in like 7th grade, you're using compasses and protractors and learning Pythagorean theorem and all kinds of crap. And I'm like, Mrs. Mustix, you hag. I didn't call her that. She was actually the best, still is. But I still disagreed with her. Miss Mustix, I'll never need to know how to calculate triangles. I'll never need to know angles. I don't need to know this stuff. I'm going to do jiu-jitsu for a living, Miss Mustix. And as it turns out, she was right. There is 10 years after high school, 10 years after graduating, there is this situation where I need to build this wall that you are seeing behind me that consists of a lot of angles. And these aren't jiu-jitsu angles that you can just feel your way through. You actually have to measure stuff, and I'm terrible at it. But that being said, Mrs. Mustix was right, and I was wrong. That was a weird tangent. That was a weird one to get on. Also, if you are just listening, I apologize for the echoiness of this room. Like I said, I'm working on this studio, and I have all of the sound absorbing materials down, so it just sounds like the scene from The Grinch where he's yelling to the echo, and that's his friend. But anyway, I digress. Let's go in and talk about today's episode. So today we have Jake Luigi on from Less Impressed, More Involved. It's a YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. I push it on the podcast a lot. And the reason I push it a lot is, 1, I enjoy it. But 2, it has a very I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show feel. What I mean by that is Jake loves to focus on trends that are happening in competitive jiu-jitsu. And a lot of the concepts that we talk about, really, you could interchange the word trend and you will hopefully, those ideas, they hopefully make jiu-jitsu seem smaller to you. And I feel like Jake, especially for only being a purple belt, does an amazing job at highlighting things that are happening repetitively in the jiu-jitsu space. And I think if you have not checked out his YouTube channel, Less Impressed, More Involved, you absolutely should. And I'm guessing after you listen to this episode, you probably will, regardless of if I push it or not. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Jake and get into the episode. All right, we're recording. Jake, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Just got out of teaching and ready to get this interview going.
Right on. I'm excited. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So I thought a fun place to start, and I know kind of the topics that will probably get brought up here, but I thought a fun place to start, like, I know you from watching your YouTube channel. I think a lot of people that will listen to this episode know you from watching your YouTube channel. And I thought a fun place to start would be the name of your YouTube channel and just kind of how you got that name and kind of even the idea of doing a YouTube channel.
Thank you for starting here, actually, because I'm doing a lot of like marketing and branding research right now. And I'm finding that my name choice is like absolutely terrible for like all of the marketing and like branding advice, because like even when like people try and give me shout outs on like podcasts, they're like, what's the name of that YouTube channel? Like, I don't even remember. It's like such a hard name to remember, you know?
Is it more impressed, less involved? Is that right? But
yeah.
where did that name come about?
Yeah. So I was reading Matthew McConaughey's book called Green Lights. And he, in that book, talks about how everything is just a skill. So if you see something and it looks super impressive, if you like actually want to learn how to do it, you should stop being impressed by it and get more involved with it and learn the skill. And eventually you'll be good at that thing that you were initially impressed by. So at the time we were getting into hunting, and this was over COVID, and I had to learn like a bunch of knots. Like I didn't know how to do anything. And I went on a little fishing trip with my uncle, and I just felt like a little kid, you know, like I didn't know how to like tie any of the knots. And like, I was like, oh, I broke my string, and I'd like walk over with my pole and he'd have to like retie stuff. And like, I just felt hopeless. So I was like, I need to do something about this, and I need to stop being impressed by it and get more involved with it. So basically I started a YouTube channel, and the idea was I would just like tie knots on the YouTube channel. And then it would be a quick reference for me to go back and be like, oh, how do I tie that fishing knot? Oh yeah, that's how I tie it. That was the idea. And that's why I named it Less Impressed, More Involved.
And so, and I actually knew this because when I bet you I was one of the earliest watchers of your YouTube channel. I started watching your YouTube channel. I think you were definitely well under 10,000 subscribers, probably like maybe even not over 1,000 subscribers. It was whenever I think maybe the Marcelo Garcia study that you did. That was the first video I saw, which is one of your first jiu-jitsu videos that you posted, right? When did you decide, okay, I'm going to stop doing knot tying and start doing jiu-jitsu on this YouTube channel? What was that process?
It was after that Marcelo Garcia video, because the knot tying ones were getting like 5 views, as you can imagine. And I wasn't making them with the intention of getting views. And the Marcelo Garcia one, I didn't make with the intention of getting views. It was just me studying jiu-jitsu over COVID and basically just like talking over an episode as like a journal, pretty much, for me to go back and reference. And then like I made one Marcelo Garcia video and it got like 200 views or something like that. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then I made like another couple like archery videos. And then I made another Marcelo Garcia, like an arm drag video. And that one got like 12,000 or something like that. And I was like, yep, making jiu-jitsu videos from now on, not making any hunting or not tying videos anymore. So that's when I made the pivot.
And so what was your original intention when you're starting to get some views and you're like, okay, I think I'm going to go after I'm going to try to do some more jiu-jitsu videos. What was the intention there? Was it just because, hey, I'm getting views, might as well keep doing this? Or what was kind of your thought behind that?
Well, my intention behind like making a journal for myself was that like there's just so many instructionals out there and just so many techniques out there that it's hard to decide what to train. So the idea behind it was I'm just going to watch a bunch of competition and watch the best people in the world and see what techniques they're actually doing. And then it gives me a more focused, oriented like training that I can like orient my training around, you know? So out of a 12-hour Danaher instructional, if I go watch Gordon and I see that he's doing like these things, like, you know, in every match, it's like, that's probably a good thing to start. And maybe you can branch out from there, but like, that's the meat and potatoes, you know? So the idea behind it was to find the meat and potatoes that you should structure your training around.
Before we move forward, let's take a step back and look at what did you do before you were doing YouTube?
Yeah. I was a project manager for a lighting company. And basically I studied finance in college, and I played like on the club baseball team in college. So it was kind of like the JV baseball team. And a kid on the team, his dad owned the company, and it obviously had nothing to do with finance. It was a lighting company, but basically they just hired people that they thought were, hard workers and relatively like competent people, and they would teach them how to do lighting. And yeah, it was just like a very secure job out of college that I took. And basically, I just not to go too deep into my life story, but like
You can go
I
as
could
deep
tell
into your life story as you want.
I could tell it wasn't what I wanted to do like the rest of my life. And there was a retirement party, and like the average employee at this company has been there for like 15 years. Like they take care of you, it's a very like people stayed once they were on board. And there was a retirement party, and it was for like 3 people, and they had each been there for like over 30 years. And I was like, that is not going to be me. Like, it should be like inspirational that like this company is good, but like it's just scared the crap out of me. So I bought a van. I was living in the van, but I was still working like full time at this company. And the idea was like, I am just going to save as much money as possible. I'm going to make Bay Area money living in a big city, and I'm going to minimize my expenses so I can not do this forever. And then I met a girl, and
Which always changes the plan,
yeah, exactly.
which always shifts the van life a lot of time.
Exactly. So yeah, I met her, and we ended up getting married this year. But basically, like over COVID, was working remote, kind of started the YouTube channel, but like wasn't able to dedicate a lot of time to it because had a full-time job as well. And then like tail end of COVID, my girlfriend at the time got a job offer out here on the island of Lanai. It's like a really remote island in Hawaii. And even though we had been working remote like the whole time over COVID, my company basically said I wasn't going to be able to move here and keep my job. So basically, we had a decision to make, and like I think it was awesome looking back that I decided to do the van thing, because it kind of put us in a situation where like I had just like grinded for like 5-6 years and like put myself in a situation where it's like I didn't feel like my back was against the wall. Like it was an actual viable option for me to like give it like a year and see if I could give the YouTube channel like an actual chance of happening. So we basically decided that we were going to take the job in Hawaii. I was going to quit my job back in the Bay Area, and I was going to give it like a year to see if I can make the YouTube channel work.
So if this hasn't happened yet, but you can let me know. But was there a point where you kind of, obviously you went into this situation where you were going to go full send towards the YouTube channel. Is there a point that you go, oh, or a certain video that you go, oh, this is viable, this is legit, I really could do something with this?
I would say there was some like initial feedback like that when like some pretty big names like reach out to you, and it's like, oh shoot, that's like this person I did a video on is like commenting on the video. It's like that was kind of a little insight into like, okay, maybe I'm actually doing something here. But when Gordon reposted my video on Instagram, like obviously behind my wedding, that was the best day of my life. Like I had to go work out. I was so jittery. I didn't know what to do. And I think from then on, like it's like I definitely knew that I was on the right track, and I just need to keep developing my skills, obviously, because I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. But yeah.
What is it? Where do you want to be? What's the future look like for you in your channel or whatever else you're hoping to do?
Yeah. So right now I'm trying to, because I feel like my content is catering more towards like the more experienced jiu-jitsu practitioner as opposed to the beginner jiu-jitsu practitioner. But I'm trying to develop more of a sense of like how to tell a story, and to do so in a way that keeps people engaged. So it's not as just like dry as a lot of content. It's more entertaining and educational. So I'm trying to, because I'm starting from scratch. Like I know no editing, at all. I had to learn everything off of YouTube, which yeah, it's kind of ironic, but yeah. So I think my ultimate goal is to make entertaining content that is very educational and gives people the meat and potatoes of what they should orient their training around.
Do you think that you will kind of just live the high YouTube subscriber life, or do you think you're going to try to transition to doing things on your own websites? Or what do you think that kind of the future? I mean, you're almost creating your own job when you're starting a YouTube channel like this. And what do you think that job will look like, or hope that job will look like?
Right. I'm kind of researching that right now, trying to plan it out. Like initially, it was just like the grow the audience phase. And now I think transitioning into the new year, it's going to be more of the monetization phase. And I'm trying to do so in a way that doesn't take away from the integrity of my brand that I'm trying to create. Because like when you start offering like a lot of different, as I'm learning, when you start offering a lot of different products, it often will lead to like short-term growth, but it takes away from the integrity of your brand, which could lead to like long-term diminishing returns. Whereas it's often a better idea to, instead of like offering more products, to like focus in on a niche and like go full in on that. And that will build your brand integrity. So I'm trying to develop ways to not spread myself too thin, and like I was honestly thinking about doing selling my privates as well.
Just you got to word it differently than I do, man. I've gotten some response trying to sell my privates, but none for jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha. Not the target market.
Yeah, not what I'm actually trying to sell. It's just right. We need to, maybe that could be a video for you, is like coming up with a new term for a private lesson, because privates is just not the term, man.
I'll brainstorm it. But yeah, like I was thinking about doing that, and I think that might be something that I do in the future. I'm also gonna start doing my own rolling footage, because I didn't want to just like hide behind the curtain of YouTube the whole time. So I think what I'm gonna do is use that as a way to develop my Patreon page and make that a feature where I basically post maybe like a weekly rolling footage video of me commentating over my rolling footage. Mm-hmm. That way I can, develop my skills as well. So I think that will be at least initially what I want to do. I really don't like the idea of like accepting random brands and like promoting random brands on my channel. So like I really am very fortunate that I've been able to work with like Brandon and Lachlan and now BJJ Fanatics, where like it's actually products that I use and enjoy using, and think people are like gonna love if they get it, as opposed to I don't want to name any brands or anything, but like, yeah, I think you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, I just don't want to take away from the integrity of my brand and promote just like random stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to navigate through that right now. So
dude, I'm 160. This probably be like almost episode 170, and I have no sponsors on the show. And it's partially because I would rather sponsor the show myself and, have my own brand on it, because you just don't know who you can trust on a lot of things. Or, am I going to accept some sponsorship and then all of a sudden they're going to come out as like anti-Semite or something like that and go, right. Go really hard on that or something.
Right. Or even like, you don't even have to be like currently representing them. Like you do a couple ads for them, and then like 6 months later, something comes out and like now you're associated with them. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just so many. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I want to open up that can of worms.
I agree, man. I think that is it's probably the battle that all jiu-jitsu content creators are having right now. Obviously, besides just trying to create content and just trying to get out there in really what is a new space, the amount of new content creators that you're seeing now there's just so many more. And so many people fighting for that. But then once you actually create an audience, trying to monetize it is actually very hard, right. At least in our space. I think that as we, as people do it more, it will be less hard. But we're not there yet. Kind of off the YouTube channel, but on the skill that you have been developing with the YouTube channel, was that kind of, I guess the word I would use, like, observant. Is that something that you have been for a long time? You've been able to observe things outside of jiu-jitsu? You've noticed yourself being an observant person, or is that a skill that you really did just develop on the YouTube channel, or for your, jiu-jitsu for your own jiu-jitsu progression?
I would say that's actually a skill I developed during jiu-jitsu. I would say I've always been like a very analytical person. Like I've always enjoyed like, math and sciences type of thing. But as far as like pinpointing like specific things, I think that's definitely something that I developed during jiu-jitsu, where like, and honestly, it's kind of nice because I spent like 5 years at a school that was pretty old, like traditional gi school. And it was a lot of the same techniques over and over and over again, So you kind of have to like figure out a way, like you always preach, to like get better every day, despite like learning the same technique, So as annoying as it was while it was happening, I think it did kind of develop that skill of like, okay, like during this class, like when we're doing our arm bars from closed guard, I'm just gonna like see what this dude's like left hand is doing, like while he's doing it. And like, if I can like make adjustments with my left hand and make it like tighter, then like we made something, like we learned something today, because I know we're going to be doing the same thing the next 4 days. So I could worry about something else, So I think like my jiu-jitsu skill, like I didn't feel like I was like getting like that much better. And I honestly don't really like use any of the techniques that I was learning. But I think just that ability to like notice little things and just like little details was developed during those early stages of learning jiu-jitsu.
Then after that was, you trained there for 5 years, and then you went somewhere else, correct? Before you moved to Hawaii?
Yeah. So I went there for 5 years, and then Craig Jones came and was giving a seminar at a school that was like 5 minutes away. So I went to that school, and like people were asking how to defend K-guard. And I didn't even know what K-guard was. And I was like, what the heck are these people even talking about? And then we got to like roll with everyone after. And I swear I got heel hooked like 15 times. I just had no clue. And I was a purple belt at the time. And I was like one of the best people at the other school. And I was like just getting worked by people over at this school that was 5 minutes away. And that just kind of opened my eyes that I was a big fish in a small pond. And I decided to switch schools, and I trained there for a month, and then COVID hit. So then I didn't train for about, I would say like 8 months maybe. And then I went back to that school for 6 months, and then we moved to Hawaii.
And I heard you on a different podcast say that during those 6 months, you feel like you got better than you had in the 5 years previous. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so that kind of made me wonder, what were some of the key differences in the training method between the two schools?
Well, one was very like old school. And it's spend a half hour in warm-ups, and then do your arm bar from closed guard, and then do your scissor sweep, and then roll. And this
everything that I dog on the podcast.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it.
And then over COVID, I did a ton of studying of instructional. So I think I developed the ability to speak the Danaher language. And the instructor at this new school that I went to trained with Danaher, or he didn't train under him, but he's like goes out to visit and trains with them and studies a lot of their tapes, and just is like completely dedicated to getting better at jiu-jitsu and teaching like the latest innovations in jiu-jitsu. So when I went there for 6 months, I just felt like I could speak his language, and it was very methodical the way he was teaching us. And during those 6 months, a lot of the time I was working from home. So I had the ability to go to like the beginner class and the advanced class, because they often did it where it was beginners from 6 to 7, and then 7 to 8:30 was advanced. So I would just go to both of them every day. And yeah, I think just the structure and just the instructor just had a ton more dedication, I think, to his students.
And so now you're in a different situation again, which is you are not the big fish in the small pond. You're kind of one of the only fish in the pond that you're in, right? How many people do you get to train with? What's your training group looking like right now?
Yeah, so it's very volatile because this island has 3,000 people. And luckily, there is a black belt here, and his wife is a brown belt, and there is a blue belt that's a cop, and then there's also a brown belt. So those, I guess, five are like the pretty consistent people. And other than that, there's like a few people that kind of come maybe once a week. But then there's also like people, because there's not a lot of people that live here, so they have to bring people in to do construction. So like people from Oahu come to do construction jobs Monday through Thursday, and there's like three people that do jiu-jitsu from those Oahu groups. So right now during the holidays, they are not coming. So like on a good night, like a month ago, there would be like maybe 10 people, which is amazing because like for the first 7 months me being here, we weren't training at all. So it's like awesome that we're finally starting to do some jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I would say a good night, it's like 10 people, and a bad night, it's just like me and one other person.
And so, where are you guys training at? Is there like a school that you can train at?
No. So luckily, one of our like upper belts, his mom is a member of this like Buddhist temple. So they open it up to us because they only meet once a week. So we train in a Buddhist temple, and then we have to put away the mats when they have their like sessions.
All right. Is there any conflict and interest in the fighting each other in the Buddhist temple? Is there
No, I
any?
think it's the yin yang, the
All
balance.
right. So that makes sense. That's perfect.
Yeah.
What does the training look like for you? How are you with such a small group focused on getting better?
Yeah, so I've really tried to incorporate the designated winner aspect or the structure into the training. And I was maybe hoping that you could help me because the one thing that I'm struggling with, because I think it does a great job, because I have such a variety of skill levels that we're teaching. It gives a good like this is what we're trying to do, and it's like do it however you want to do it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you the reins, which is nice when you have black belts and white belts that you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to train. But it's just hard because a lot of the people don't have like any experience at all. So how do you find it? How do you deal with like the beginner problem, of designated winner?
So for me, the more this is how and every time I do a designated winner episode, I always end and I'm like, I could have said 15 better things about this or things that make more sense. But I think something that the last one didn't get across very well was that designated winner can be any type of game in jiu-jitsu. So for instance, sometimes I will break, especially when I notice like, okay, I have a lot of beginners in my class. Sometimes I will break it down to not just be, hey, we're drilling any guard pass, maybe we'll take an idea of chest over chest, right? We'll take this idea of chest to chest, chest over chest, and we'll say this is the most important concept to be focused on. Okay. So before we worry about anything else, all I want you to do, and I may give like an example or two, give two actual moves that people could use for this situation. But the real goal is make sure your chest over chest, and I might explain it a few different ways. Make sure your chin goes past their trap, right? You can explain this in different ways, just whatever is going to kind of connect to the people that you're dealing with. And then you start as at zero as you can. But you can even have like, I'll even give an example of what 10% looks like. I'll go, okay, bottom person's going to give 10% resistance. What that means is just frames, no grips. All they're going to do is have their feet and their hands out, their knees are connected, and the top person is going to throw by the legs and get chest over chest. And then maybe we increase it to 20, 30%. And I go, now you can actually grab the gi, but still with your frames and stuff, you're not going hard. If the top person wants to just drive through and muscle through, let them. Their job is to get the work in, and really explaining the roles of the top person and the bottom person, or however whatever position we are doing designated winner in, really explaining it to be like, you can only do or really focus on this one idea, this one simple thing. I noticed that that's really helpful for my students. And then I'll watch what's happening. And if it seems like there's a communication error, I'll even change the game more. And may say, okay, well, now with designated winner, the bottom person is not only trying to get a grip, but they're also going to try to use their foot to touch the hips of the top person, right? It gives them another way. And so we stop kind of going from designated winner where somebody always gets to win, and it starts to become a game in itself, where obviously we're using jiu-jitsu to try to grip fight and get my feet to or a foot to my opponent's hips. I'm using jiu-jitsu to do that. But what's really happening is, that fight happens all the time at the highest levels, trying to split the legs to get to the hips, trying to get a foot on the hip to get to De La Riva guard, right? But you highlight these really important skills and you just say, hey, that's winning in this game. For instance, last night we were doing smash half guard. We've been doing smash half guard. And just smashing position as the top person. Then we kind of switch to the bottom person. How do you deal with this? How do you get out of this? And the biggest thing is you've got to get on your side. And so the game was, can I get a shoulder? He has both of my shoulders and both of my butt cheeks on the floor. Can I get one side or the other off the mat? And so that's the game. And then as soon as that happens, just reset. The guy still keeps good pressure on top. And my students are creating all kinds of different ways to win the game, right? They're creating all these different ideas to win the game, and then they restart. But I find that the less experience that there is on the mat, the more that I have to make the game a game, right? The more I have to just make it the smallest piece of jiu-jitsu that I can. And yeah, does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I appreciate you using the half guard example, because as you can imagine, that's what I'm been teaching. So yeah, that resonates really well with me. So thank you.
Yes, for sure. And so that's kind of been how we've been focused on it. But there are all these different ways that you can play the game. I think that we call it like the upper thigh game. Is this idea that the top person has to, in order to get a guard pass, has to start to create contact with the upper thigh. Right. And I used to always teach my students, keep your knees tight when you're retaining guard, and nobody would do it. But then when I made it a game that don't let them touch your upper thigh, I didn't even have to explain, keep your knees tight. Everybody picked up, okay, in order to keep this guy from touching my upper thighs, I got to keep my thighs close to me. And so you're able to, and this is like, I still feel like I'm in the level one of these ideas still. And so it's always changing and getting tweaked, and we're adding new games and taking some away or adding new rules and stuff like that. But the biggest, I think, takeaway that people could have with designated winner is that they should be breaking jiu-jitsu down into as small pieces as possible, as small skills as possible, and then figuring out games that don't kill your body to develop these skills, and games that kind of make it a little more even for a white belt to be able to train with a black belt and play these games.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just when you were talking right there, it reminded me, I'm reading this, again, just branding book. And he talks about how like brands that try to talk about how good they are, like exhibit like quality, like keep your knees to your chest. Like, this is how you're good. You keep your knees to your chest. It's like, no one listens to that. Everyone's like, yeah, that's what everyone says. Everyone thinks they're good. But it says like, as soon as you display some sort of leadership, like we're the number one, whatever. It's like people will assume that your product is good because we live in like America and people are allowed to pick any product. So obviously if you're number one, you're good, So like they kind of like, it sticks better and they act on it better if they can like get to the conclusion themselves, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Josh McKinney here. Just wanted to interrupt the episode really quick and tell you about something really exciting going on at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu. I told you already that I am currently sitting in the new studio for Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu. We are redoing our studio and making the space much better so we can put out much better content next year. We kind of have the people around us now and just the right ideas to be able to really make a push in the jiu-jitsu content creation world. And that being said, I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to get on the Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu email list. This email list will give you all the information about all the free seminars that we're going to be doing online, live on YouTube, live on Facebook in the future, hopefully in the next month. But we're going to be doing a lot of different things that I don't think really many people in jiu-jitsu have done. And so I'm really excited to share these things with you guys. But if you want to just wait for commercials and intros and outros for me to tell you this kind of stuff, you can wait. But if not, if you want to be on top of what is going on at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu and get a lot of the free content that we're going to be pushing to you, you need to be part of the email list. The best way to do that is to go to simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. That is the number 3, and you can sign up for the 3 lenses. The 3 lenses is my most recent ebook, and it's a terrific read. It really will help you simplify your jiu-jitsu. It will help you understand how you learn jiu-jitsu and give you some really simple training methods to try, and then you can get better, hopefully faster. And that's kind of the goal for all of us. That's the whole goal. That's the whole reason you would join the Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu email list anyway. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. If you want to get on the email list, if you want the free ebook, go to simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. Let's get back to the episode. What else are you doing? Anything else different in your training, with the people that you have?
I would say not too much. That's kind of been a big shift for me. I've never been exposed to any type of training like the designated winter training. It's always been like situational sparring kind of thing was kind of the closest I've had to that. So that alone has been a pretty big like mindset shift when it comes to training that I really think is valuable, especially this guard passing stuff that we're doing now. I think it's like that's where it like is made to shine. So yeah, I think that has been really beneficial. And then I've just been trying to like get it sounds kind of mean, honestly, but like you pass and then you kind of like don't pass, and then you pass and then you kind of don't pass. So I'm like trying to get my reps in on what I'm working on against like easier competition or partners. And it kind of feeds right into the Gordon kind of strategy that we've been talking about on the YouTube channel of just kind of like wear people out. So when you get to a good position, they are just screwed. It's not like they're going to bridge and buck you off because they're exhausted at that point. So it's basically kind of opened my eyes to that a bit. And yeah, just been working on that.
Do you have any goals in your jiu-jitsu that are not YouTube related?
It's a really good question. I've kind of struggled with this a little bit because like I don't really compete. I've never really competed. And, I always get asked like if competing like makes you better. And I honestly think it does. But like, do you know who Tom Bilyeu is?
I don't.
Okay. He's this guy who has a, big YouTube following as well. And basically he says that you should do and believe things that move you towards your goals. And right now, like it's obviously there are no jiu-jitsu competitions happening on this island. So like if we were to go to a jiu-jitsu competition, it would be like, on Oahu or on Maui, and you'd have to rent a car, you'd have to get a hotel. It'd be like a whole ordeal, which is not financially feasible. So like, as far as like my goals, I think I've like brainwashed myself almost to believe that competing does not define like who I am, if that makes sense. So even though that's like a very traditional approach to take, I don't think, especially at this point in my life, that I'm going to be a competitor of any sort. So it's definitely something that I've kind of struggled with on my own, like personal development. Like, what's the goal of this? Because honestly, I'm just having so much fun, just like studying and connecting dots and that type of thing. So yeah, I honestly don't know the long-term goal. I'm just having a blast right now doing it. So
That's
yeah.
good though. That's awesome. And with competing, like even though it's always pushed, like it's this thing that everyone has to do. That's where you're testing your jujitsu. I mean, I would argue that if you put focus into competing, you might bring less value to the jiu-jitsu community than you do now because of how much time you're able to dedicate to your channel and how much time you're able to dedicate to. I mean, your channel is a niche that really not many people are doing. I think now that you're starting to get some success, more people are trying to do what you're doing, but it's such a specific niche. And one, you could easily just get clouded by your focus on competition goals. And you're like, that's, I noticed with my podcast, the podcast kind of suffers when I'm focused on competition. I don't have the energy to dedicate to the podcast. And then also my mind is so focused on maybe I'm having this hole in my competition. Maybe I feel like my mentality for competition is off and like the lead up to competition is off. And so maybe I do some really good episodes on that, but it still didn't fix the problem. I do 2 weeks of episodes on it. Well, I deal with this problem for 6 months. And I assume that you're probably like me, that the jujitsu obsession can kind of get you. And all of a sudden I'm obsessed with this idea of competition mentality for 6 months. And a lot of my people that listen to the show, maybe they're not competitors and they're like, okay, Josh, I would really rather not hear about this anymore. I'd really rather hear about something else. And so, yeah, I think I could see that could easily be a thing that clouds you.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's something I didn't consider, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, too many balls in the air.
It really is. So for you now, do you think that as your channel grows that you'll get more access to be able to train with higher level guys?
Um, that's a good question. I don't think I don't think so. Maybe I will travel and be able to go places, but like I don't see that being any, like, you could go into any school as like a normal person, it's not like it's gonna like open doors for me. I don't know, maybe I'm just being ignorant because I'm in a little bubble on this island, but like there was actually this one gentleman who came, his family lives here, and um he comes like once a week because this island is big for hunting because there's a huge deer problem on this island and there's no natural predators. So they're just like so many deer.
Uh-huh.
So people come here to hunt. It's like a paradise for hunting. And this gentleman came and he does jiu-jitsu at AOJ. And I had just did a video about Cole. And he was like, oh, like, are you the YouTube guy? Like, he didn't know who I was. He like asked to take a picture with me and stuff. So that was like the first like glimpse I've had, like, oh, people actually like know who I am, which is pretty wild. But like, unless we do like a camp or something out here, that could be fun to do, like like a jiu-jitsu camp or something on the island and bring some people out. But yeah, I don't think, as far as like training partners, I don't think we're gonna get like, a bunch of new people moving to this island to like train with us or anything like that.
Do you see yourself being on that island indefinitely?
Um, well, my wife is getting her she's a golfer and she's getting her PGA certification. So the idea is like we'll get that and probably stay here for a few more years at least, because that program takes a few years.
Uh-huh.
But that will open up a lot of doors for us, especially if my YouTube channel is successful and I'm able to work remotely. So not really sure, but I imagine that we'll be here for like 2, 3 more years and then kind of reassess after that.
What is successful on your YouTube channel? What would you define that as?
Man, I would say this definition has changed like dramatically once I started reading these like branding and marketing books. Cause like initially when I'm making it, I'm like just looking at the subscriber number, like I need to get this as high as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Where like in reality, it's not realistic for me to compete with like some of the more like broader jujitsu channels that are trying to capture a larger market. Like my goal should be to get like 1,000 like true fans that are like, dude, I'll buy whatever you put out. I'll, come to your camp if you have a camp. I like, like really support me, So I think my goal is to have, at least right now, like get like 1,000 true fans, I would say is my goal. I think that would be financially stable for me, to not be so stressed every day to put out some good content. And I think it will, I think that would be it. That would be an awesome goal.
When you are putting out content, I've heard you answer this question before, but I kind of wanted to ask again, just because like you said, the answers change to a lot of these things a lot of times. But when you are looking at what's the next video that you're putting out or the next idea that you have, where do those usually come from? Where do those ideas for videos usually come up?
Gordon Ryan competition schedule.
All right.
No, just kidding, but not really.
Yeah. That's a good answer. It's been working.
Yeah, for sure. Ride that wave. But in all honesty, like I'll tend to just kind of look at different competitions, and I try not to watch stuff live because it takes forever to watch stuff live. So like I tend to go back and just like run through each match and just see if there's any trends that I pick up. And I really try to not go into a video with like, this is what I'm going to talk about, and try to find clips to match what I'm going to talk about. I really try to find video clips and then see what trends I notice and then talk about those trends as opposed to trying to like, match whatever message I'm trying to say. I really try and keep an open mind because again, the goal is to see what's actually working in these competitions. And if I just say like, oh, I'm going to talk about this week and go try and scour the internet for examples of like that one go-go plata that worked because I want to make a video about how go-go platas are the next thing. Like, I think that's not a good strategy.
Yes, that makes sense. Do you have any tips for somebody because this is something that I talk about on the podcast a lot, but this is something people really are hungry for. Do you have any tips for developing that skill of being observant, of noticing trends, of what somebody could do, especially if they just feel like, man, when I'm watching, because for a lot of people, when they're watching jiu-jitsu competition, they're like, I don't even understand what's happening here. Do you have any tips for somebody like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say, like it first starts like with kind of like you're talking about, like focusing on a specific game and trying to break it down into like as small a piece as possible, and just trying to notice like what's going on to win that game. Like what is Gordon Ryan doing to win the inside thigh game, and then try and do that yourself. And if it doesn't work, it might not work for you. And then you might go see like what I've been doing is just like primarily watching like Gordon, and then like I'll go study Lachlan's stuff as well. And Brandon doesn't have guard passing stuff, so I haven't been studying too much of Brandon's stuff recently. But like I'll look at his like lockdown stuff and be like, all right, what is the lockdown person trying to do? And then like focus on how to prevent that. And I think the smaller you can break down the game that you're playing, exactly like you were talking about for beginners, like the easier it's going to be for you to like take away something from a jiu-jitsu competition.
How much time do you spend watching jiu-jitsu competition?
Dude, Um, so I try to structure my day around like, so I'm very I don't want to say like easily manipulated, I guess you could say. Like if I learn something, like I think it's like true and I like basically go all in. And I was listening to this neuroscience podcast, the Huberman podcast, and he was talking about how your brain is better analytically in the mornings. And then as the sun starts to set, it gets more into a creative mindset. So the way I've tried to structure my day is like in the early parts of the day, I'm trying to do like all of my editing and like tedious work.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the later part of the day, I'll maybe watch like a little bit of an instructional, and then I'll watch some jiu-jitsu competition where I'm like a bit of more creative and I'm able to like hopefully connect dots from what I'm learning in instructionals to what I'm seeing in competition. And yeah, that's the way I've tried to structure my day.
So when you're watching a competition, are you pausing it, taking notes? Are you just watching it straight through and then asking yourself at the end, hey, what was happening a lot there? What are you kind of, how do you actually watch the competition for study purposes?
Yeah. So I guess it kind of depends. Like if I'm just going in, like I don't even have a video idea, I'm taking notes on everything. Like for the last like W&O, it'd be like, oh, De La Hiva, and then like try to do, a knee cut from De La Hiva, and then it didn't work. So they went like K guard or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like just kind of like I'll put a timestamp and I'll just put like what happened, and then I'll keep it going, and then I'll timestamp what happened. Like as I don't watch the full thing and then go back, I just write it when it happens, kind of thing.
Huh?
And then I'll go back and I'll just kind of like scan my notes, and I'll just see like, man, there was a lot of K guard entries, and then I'll try and pick up on how they do their setups and the result. And like a lot of times the result nowadays is like wrestle up, like K guard wrestle up, and yeah. So that's how that just came to mind because that's like a recent video I did. But yeah, that's how I typically would watch a event.
As you do that, are you noticing that jujitsu is getting smaller for you? Like in like the things that are happening, you're noticing the same things happen more and more?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So what are some of the biggest things that are happening in jiu-jitsu right now in your eyes that like some of the biggest trends? What are the biggest trends right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest trends are like what I've been talking about, that like people are really wanting to be on top as opposed to be on bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And when people get better at passing, it's going to be very difficult for you to do all like your fancy guard and inversions and stuff, because like people are going to get good at shutting that down, and then you're going to end up in a very bad place. And yeah, I think basically the thing that I'm trying to focus on, because I see it a lot, is being able to stay in offensive cycles. And like I know that's like using Danaher terminology like to the max, but like a little teaser, I guess, into my next video that I'm working on right now. Like I think, like you said, like as soon as we say something, it's like my answer is probably going to change next week. But like Gordon's first passing instructional, it was like, have you seen it?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of it.
Okay. Yeah, like he talks a lot about stepping to like the straight hamstring or cross hamstring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then doing your passing from there. But like I think a lot of people are still doing that. And like people are just like stepping into reverse De La Hiva, and then they're like getting attacked like right away, because that's like a good offensive position as well. So like you're trying to set up your offensive cycle to get to reverse De La Hiva, and then they grab your heel, and now you're like, crap, I got to go into like defense mode to break this grip or whatever. And then now they're attacking me. So you like put yourself basically in a defensive cycle. Whereas now Gordon is not stepping into reverse De La Hiva. He's working more on the outer edges. So when they extend their leg to catch you in reverse De La Hiva, that's them doing so defensively, right? Like they're putting you in reverse De La Hiva, but they're still in defense mode. still in offense mode, and I can address that much quicker to keep myself in an offensive cycle. So like basically what I'm obviously still trying to figure out myself and talk myself through is like, how is Gordon, because it feels like we're always trying to play catch up to Gordon. And like, how is he changing like what he's talking about in his instructionals? Like, how is his actual game different? And I think that's like a big change that he's made in his mentality behind like his first instructional, which is obviously like a while ago, and his latest like competitions is, you know, not just stepping into a position that the person can attack from, like make it more defensive for them to get there. So yeah, I think that's really what I've been trying to focus on.
Yeah, and that is a really huge difference in his passing too. You look at, I think, there was just a time where he really exposed that no one could do what I guess is now called like floating passing and no-gi. It was very common in the gi, but he figured out some ways to apply the same ideas and even better, kind of even rethink some of the ideas for no-gi. And then eventually what happens is when you are the top dog and you are teaching instructionals that honestly, if you look, obviously all the highest level guys are watching. Right. All of the highest level guys are trying to emulate Gordon. Eventually what's going to happen is people are going to figure out a way to beat it because everyone's doing it now, and he's explaining it very well, and everyone is going, okay, so this is what he's doing. How can we deal with this, or how could we even avoid this position entirely? So I do like that, staying ahead of the curve. What if Gordon didn't exist? Who would you be studying right now?
It's a really good question. Like that whole team doesn't exist, or just
sure.
Gordon?
Let's go ahead. Let's say that there is a horrific incident with Team Danaher, with New Wave.
Knock on wood.
And yeah, knock on wood. But yeah, let's say that happens. Where are you going with it? Who are you watching now?
It's a really good question. I find it a bit difficult to study the B team crew because it seems like they're going in so many different directions, and like each individual person is like working on their own game. And yeah, like it's awesome. It's like, a different way to kind of structure your school, and I think hopefully it works out well for them. But it's just difficult for me to study and be like, this is what that team is focusing on. I think that's less prevalent there. So if I'm studying them, it would be more of like a general approach. But man, like, it's a really good question, because if I'm not studying Gordon, I'm studying like their blue belts and purple belts, and like listening to what John is saying in the corner, and like trying to pick up on what they're doing. And a lot of times there's honestly more insight there, because like they're trying to do something that they're not like as good at, and like people shut it down, and then they'll go back to like the same position and try and do it again. Like, like that's what they're trying to do, So honestly, I don't know a good way to answer it, because like a lot of my study has been them supplemented by other people. So like Kieran, Chris beat Kieran in trials. I've studied that match quite a bit. The way Chris used that body lock to kind of shut down Kieran was pretty beautiful. I really enjoy him. I like watching like Jordan Hawley is a pretty exciting guy to watch. A lot of leg locks and stuff. So another guy who I really like his passing is I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but it's DeAndre Cobre.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce anybody's name in jiu-jitsu, dude.
He's beating like all the guys that I'm like talking about. Like he beat Kieran, he beat Jordan. And I'm like, man, who is this guy? And I just started watching him, and his guard passing is awesome. He's really good. So yeah, it's kind of leads me down rabbit holes, but like as far as like a specific person or team, I think I really focus my study around Danaher's crew, and then supplement with other people.
That makes sense. Do you have a favorite non new wave grappler? Like if you're just watching jiu-jitsu to watch jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. The only person that came to mind because he always makes fun of me for it is this guy named Owen O'Flanagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's
He has
a terrific grappler to watch.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he has a podcast as well, and always calls me a stalker because I always mention him and stuff. But yeah, it's funny.
Did he just beat Couch last weekend?
Yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that. I
he
haven't
did.
seen the match. I saw the post about the match.
Yeah, I haven't actually watched the match either, and I saw the post. It didn't sound like he apologized. Owen did, like, oh, sorry, it wasn't like that exciting. So I don't know how it went down, but yeah, Owen ended up winning.
Man, these submission only guys that will apologize after not getting a submission. I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't apologize after winning a match by penalty. I would be like, hey, thank God that I won this match.
I
You know?
regret nothing.
Yeah. I'm I'm just thrilled to be here, man. Why are you guys so upset?
Right.
Um, so this is usually the question we'll finish with, and we'll look if it kind of brings up anything. But always like to ask, what is the best or some of the best jiu-jitsu advice that you've gotten?
Yeah. It's a really good question. And I think the best jujitsu advice I got, and it's like so cliche, it's just like unbelievable, but it's like the black belt is just a white belt that didn't quit. And the same guy I mentioned, Tom Bilyeu, before, but he talks about how like his superpower is that like he's not going away, like he's gonna keep coming back. And like um he talks about how like when you're gonna feel not smart enough, you're gonna feel not strong enough, you're gonna feel not flexible enough. And the key is to get you out of that negative mindset and put yourself in problem solving mode right away. So basically, he says, like, if I feel like I'm not smart enough, what can I do in the next 15 minutes to make me smarter? And it kind of puts you in the problem solving mode. And that's a little technique that I really try to leverage. And I truly think, like, with anything in life, if you just keep doing it, like, you're gonna get better. And like, I don't mean it in the sense that like Danaher always talks about how like you shouldn't set your standards as low as getting a black belt. Like anyone can just get a black belt by just showing up. Like you should be trying to develop skills that are useful, but at the end of the day, like you do have to keep showing up, and that's kind of what it all boils down to. So I think the best advice anyone can give you is, you always preach it too, be consistent and show up.
It literally is the hardest thing for most people with jiu-jitsu, and almost in anything. It is the hardest thing for people to just consistently, year in, year out, day in, day out, do something. I always will see the shock on people's face when they're like, how long have you been training? Like 15 years. Like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine doing anything for 15 years, And yeah, it's like it is a developable skill for sure.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Jonah Hill documentary on Netflix? It's called starts with an S. It's like I don't remember what it's called actually, but
I have not.
It's super good. It's about his therapist, because I guess Jonah Hill was like going through a pretty tough time, and he started going to therapy, and this therapist like changed his life and gave him a bunch of tools that really helped Jonah turn his life around. And he made this documentary sharing those tools with everyone, is basically the idea behind it. And super cool. And one of the tools is, I forget what he calls it, but basically the idea is like, I'm the person that puts the next pearl on the necklace. Like there's going to be pearls that you got to keep putting on the necklace, and you're going to put the pearl on and you're going to see there's a big shit stain in the middle of that pearl, but you're going to put the next one on anyway. And there's going to be a shit stain on that one. And you're going to try and get the pearl more pure and more pure every time. But regardless, you're the person that puts the next pearl on the necklace, and you're not going to stop putting pearls on the necklace. It's like, there's so many ways to word it, but like it all boils down to the end of the day. Like that advice is so good for anything you want to accomplish, for sure.
Okay, so last little question, last little thought exercise. Let's just pretend, because I've asked you this question a few different ways already, but I tend to do that on this podcast. I think of better ways that I could get the information that I'm getting. But let's say 5 years from now, down the road, what do you think the less impressed, more involved YouTube channel is like, or or what is it then?
You've really I really need to sit down and think of a more long-term plan with this, because up until now it's just been like week by week by week, trying to come out with videos. And you've definitely made me realize I need to develop a long-term plan with this, because like right now, I would say that it's going to be a platform where nerdy people come together to get better at jiu-jitsu. And I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but like that is the goal. And I imagine I'll still be making YouTube videos, and I imagine I'll still be like, breaking down rolling footage and stuff like that. But like, man, I feel like my ideas are changing month by month, and like it's hard to imagine 5 years down the road, but I definitely need to have more of a North Star to where I'm going. But yeah, right now it's hard for me to answer that question. But yeah, the goal is nerdy people getting better at no-gi jiu-jitsu is basically where we're at.
That is great. Why'd you go no-gi over gi?
Well, basically like that Craig Jones seminar, I did gi like for the full like 5 years at the traditional school. And then I went to that Craig Jones seminar, which was no gi, and it just exposed like a huge hole in my game. And heading into COVID, I think it was like exactly what I needed, because it like lit a fire under me to like, even though I couldn't train, I knew I had to study this leg lock stuff. Otherwise I was going to just get murdered. Mm-hmm. So that really helped get me through it. And I just studied like a bunch of no-gi material. And then I came back and just did a bunch of no-gi stuff for 6 months. And I just felt like I was just improving so much, and it was just so interesting. And I felt like there was so much to learn. It was like impossible to keep up with no-gi anyway. So if I was trying to do gi and no-gi, I think the no-gi content would suffer. And yeah, that's basically how it unfolded.
Did you burn your gi when it was, did you like,
I actually gave a lot of them away as giveaways as the channel was coming up. Like, well, if we hit 500 subscribers, I'll send you a gi. It's slightly used, but like.
Yeah, I'm doing a no-gi only channel and you're giving away gis.
Yeah, exactly. I was moving too. I was like, man, I need to lighten this load.
So, man, anything you want to say to finish?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. I love your show. I listen to it a lot. So, yeah, I appreciate you and a lot of other, podcasts and YouTube channels out there. I think it's just awesome that we help each other, and yeah, we're all just trying to suck less at jiu-jitsu.
We are, aren't we? So you're the guy that's been listening to the show. All right.
5-star review.
Yeah, I knew. There we go. I knew somebody was listening. I don't. Man, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is the episode. Thank you guys for checking this one out. If you guys continue to listen to these Tuesday interviews, I'm going to continue to record and continue to try to push them out. And always let me know if you guys have any suggestions, any guests that you might think that we should have on the show, or just some topics that you might think that we could talk about on a Thursday episode. I need to come up with names for the Tuesday and Thursday episode. Like people have cool names. The people that do multiple shows per week, they come up with cool names. And then even their email list has a cool name. I have cool names of nothing. I've invented all kinds of crazy jiu-jitsu techniques. All of the names of them are so stupid. And so I can't be in charge of coming up with the Tuesday interview, then the name of the Tuesday interview show, or the name of the Thursday solo podcast show. I need your guys' help. So if you guys have any suggestions on what I should be calling both of those things, or just either one of them, send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com, or send me a message on Instagram @the Josh McKinney. I would love to hear from you guys. I hope you guys got something out of this episode. I know that I did. I am in kind of full content creation mode, and getting to talk to somebody who I feel like is doing something different in the jiu-jitsu space was so helpful for me. And so even if it wasn't helpful for you guys, the episode was helpful for me. And then also Jake just seems like a really good guy. I just really like how he comes across on his YouTube channel, and I loved how he came across on this episode. Just seems like a very curious person that is doing a really good job helping other people learn jiu-jitsu. And so be sure to check out his YouTube channel if you have not already. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys check out the Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu email list. Remember, simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope that you guys check out Thursday's episode. If YouTube is interesting to you, if podcasting is interesting to you, I'm going to do an episode on whether or not you, the listener, should start creating content, should start a YouTube channel, should start a podcast. And obviously, you guys know how I am. I tend to be a little bit pushy, and that comes through. Don't listen to the episode if you have no desire to do those things, because I will find that desire in your heart and then make you feel guilty about not having a YouTube channel yet or a podcast yet. But I don't just leave you there. I also give you some suggestions on things you could try, things you could do to be able to grow in content creation and hopefully get some financial freedom, hopefully make some money from it, and maybe travel and do whatever. But that's all I have for you guys today. I was in the middle of the outro when I said that, so I'll just pick it up from here. I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.